Welcome to AUTOTECH'S Got Talent, where the best early-stage automotive technology companies battle it out for the win as they face off over 10 weeks. You help to nominate the companies, you will help to decide the winner. The winning company will receive an offer of a $100,000 investment from Automotive Ventures. I'm excited to welcome Jamil Rahman from Aucto as one of our 10 AUTOTECH'S Got Talent finalists. Aucto provides a digital platform and marketplace that enables enterprise organizations to recover value from surplus business and industrial assets. Think about automotive OEMs trying to change the configuration of their factories from internal combustion engines to electric vehicles. Aucto believes that the current way of buying and selling surplus machinery and equipment needs improvement. That is why they create a platform that empowers sellers and provides buyers a chance to buy industrial equipment at fair market value. The rules for today are simple. The contestant has 5 minutes to pitch. They'll get a 1-minute warning from me and will be cut off at the 5-minute mark. Then our judges will have 5 minutes for Q&A, after which we'll ask the judges to vote. Then, for the following week, we'll ask you for your vote. You help us pick the winning company. With that, I'll hand the mic over to Jamil from Aucto for AUTOTECH'S Got Talent, and we look forward to hearing his pitch.
Perfect. Thanks, Steve, and good afternoon, judges. My name is Jamil. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Aucto, and we're on a mission to help the industry reduce waste by providing a sustainable solution for surplus assets. So, as you know, the auto manufacturing industry spends billions of dollars sourcing new equipment, parts, and materials every year. And they have a very well-established process for procuring, tracking, and depreciating these assets as they move through their life cycle. But not many people understand what happens to these assets once they're end of life, or if they become surplus due to retooling, overpurchasing, or project cancellations. Well, I've spent about 15 years in this industry, and I learned that these companies generate an enormous amount of surplus materials in the course of their business. Now, in their drive for sustainability and profits, most of these enterprises have set up asset recovery departments whose job it is to recover value from their surplus. And, you know, it's probably the least sexy part of an enterprise supply chain, but it's really important because poor asset management results in a very significant amount of this material ending up in landfills and scrapyards, when it could be redeployed or resold to a second home. Now, on top of that, every dollar recovered through investment recovery initiatives hits the bottom line directly, which is why asset recovery makes a lot of financial sense as well. Let me tell you a little bit more about the market. So this is a very big market. Over $300 billion of surplus and used industrial assets are bought and sold every year. And the market is very, very fragmented, where the largest player, a publicly traded company, has less than 2% of total market share. Another interesting note is that experts estimate that 20% of any organization's assets are actually surplus to its needs. So when you think about the balance sheet of a large manufacturing company like an OEM automotive company, you can understand why this market is so big and why it's going to get bigger. Now, the challenge with selling surplus is that enterprises have lots of different types of products in lots of different geographies. And they don't know how to reach the buyers for these products directly because, let's face it, selling used stuff is not their core business and shouldn't be. And so they depend on third parties like brokers and industrial auctioneers to reach the right buyer markets. The problem is that these brokers are product specialists or they're geography constrained. So what ends up happening is that you've got a multi-vendor arrangement to help support your asset management process. And for the enterprise, this means that every single time they have numerous brokers supporting asset recovery. What this multi-vendor arrangement does, though, is that it causes there to be no standard process for asset sales. And so how a company sells assets in Canada is going to be very different in how it sells assets in, say, US or Mexico. And this lack of standardization results in poor visibility and control over the process. And what that means is that there's really no transparency into the transactions, into the buyers, into the terms of sale, and the level of risk that the enterprise is taking by selling those assets on the second market. Finally, to top it all off, it's expensive. The average transaction cost through a broker is somewhere between 25 to 40% of the sale value. Now, in contrast to selling through third parties, Aucto is engineered from the ground up to focus on the needs of the enterprise. we have developed a platform that essentially displaces the broker from the selling process, which means that small businesses and entrepreneurs can source quality secondhand equipment directly from major enterprise sellers who don't need that equipment anymore. And for the enterprise, it means that one single standardized process for managing and selling surplus across the entire organization. Over the last year, we have helped these large companies sell millions of dollars of surplus to buyers all over the world, and we're just getting started. And in terms of cost, by the way, we have a very unique monetization strategy. Our platform monetizes the transaction on the buyer side, which means that we don't actually create a cost for the enterprise at all. Our go-to-market focus is on these three verticals because these are the most capital-intensive industries, and they are also on the verge of major change. For the automotive industry, transitioning their manufacturing plants to electric vehicles alone is going to generate an enormous amount of surplus equipment and materials, and we're positioned to help them manage and disposition that surplus. Since 2020, we've been able to secure contracts with the following companies in each vertical, and we're now focusing on going after the rest of the market in these verticals. Now, we're just starting to scratch the surface of a very large market that's expanding. Our vision is to be the go-to marketplace for surplus and used industrial assets anywhere in the world. We also want to be seen as a trusted advisor to the enterprise when it comes to asset recovery. And lastly, once we've reached sufficient scale, we want to enter the SME market and give smaller businesses the same tools.
Perfect. Good timing, Jamil. Nice work.
Thank you.
We will hand now the mic over to the judges. Judges, you have 5 minutes.
Jamil, talk to me a little bit about the buyer's side of the equation. So it seems like you've gone, we've talked a little bit about two-sided marketplaces. Obviously, you've got the supply side and the demand side. It seems like you've gone after the supply side and securing the supply side of the. Talk to me a little bit about the demand side. How do you go and take the products that you've now gotten and build demand for them, go and find buyers for them? How does that process work?
Yeah, so the process is digitized. We've built AI technology that allows us to classify products into one of the appropriate product verticals that we know that there's buyer markets in. And so as enterprises upload assets, we classify them into one of the buyer product categories, and then we reach out to buyers on those products. Now, when it comes to results, in 2020, we had 70% plus sell-through rate, and this year we're up to over 80%. So we've got the buyer side fairly well figured out. Of course, there's room for improvement, but really the challenge for us is the supply side, and that's really where we're focusing a lot of our efforts on today.
How does the buyer or the seller become aware of you? Like, what would bring them to you to know that I should go buy a piece of equipment from you versus going to a broker?
We operate on a push system. So what we do is we notify buyers through digital advertising, through standard, digital reach out campaigns that, hey, there's a certain asset that you should buy. You can get it at a great price. And so as those auctions come up on our platform, which is a demand generation focused platform, buyers are notified that they should participate in a certain auction. On the supply side, we're acquiring sellers through direct selling. So we've got business development managers that reach out to these enterprises and talk to them about asset recovery.
As a buyer, why do I want to pay you a 10% premium?
Because typically you're used to paying an 18% premium. So they're quite happy to pay that 10% premium. Secondly, the price of the asset, they're getting a substantial saving buying something used versus buying new. So there's certainly the price component, but there's also the lead time. Right now, especially with the COVID supply chain, it's almost impossible to source equipment. There's huge delays on being able to get equipment. With our platform, they get that equipment now.
Are you involved in the movement of the equipment from the seller's location to the buyer's location?
As of today, we're currently involved all the way up until payment and transaction. Once that's done, the sellers and buyers use our platform to communicate and negotiate the terms of the movement of the equipment. But that's something certainly that we're looking into as we continue to scale.
And what about certifying whether or not the equipment is of the quality that the seller says it is? And how are you guaranteeing that, or are you guaranteeing that?
Well, first of all, sellers on our platform are large enterprises with big names and big reputations. And so certainly they uphold their profile on our platform by standing behind everything they sell. Secondly, we are exploring the idea of offering some type of fintech solution to maybe certify or warranty some of the products that we're selling. We're not quite there yet, but it's in the pipeline.
How do you manage disputes between your buyers and sellers when the product shows up and it's not exactly what I thought I was going to get as the buyer?
Yeah, great question. So one of the big pillars that we focus on for the supply side is control. We give the seller the ability to control the terms of sale. Because they're dispositioning these assets in a quick way and price is really not a big concern, they like to dictate what are the terms of sale so that they can mitigate their risk. The buyers are aware exactly of those terms of sale before they participate in the auction, so they know if something is as is, whereas buyers also have the ability to inspect the assets on site if they wish to do that. And so really, it's more of a buyer understands exactly what the level of risk is before they get into a transaction.
Jamil, are you putting buyer and seller together and the money's going from buyer to seller, or does the money go to Aucto and then Aucto holds it and pays the seller?
The second one. So we have something called the Aucto Payment Gateway, which means that buyers make one simple payment through credit card, wire transfer, or some other means. And what our platform does is it takes the buyer's premium for Aucto and maintains that, and then it forwards the rest of the amount to the seller once the sellers fulfill their obligation to deliver the goods.
So you have positive cash flow built into your financial model.
Yeah, we could technically operate on that cash flow, but that's not something that we prefer to do.
It's good thinking.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, great work, Jamil. Very nicely done. Judges, I'll ask you to provide a score, if you would. The moment of truth, Jamil. Here you go. Jen, we're going to have some like Jeopardy music or something for this part. Wow. Very nice. Good work, Jamil. Good work.
Thank you, judges. Now it's your turn. We look forward to hearing from you for your vote, and keep an eye on the AUTOTECH'S Got Talent leaderboard on automotiveventures.com.